Good afternoon, everyone. We're gonna give people a couple minutes to join before we start. So this is gonna be the virtual public information meeting for State Project 55148. Please join us for a question and answer session following a formal presentation, and send us a question or a comment during the session. We're gonna have a project email as follows: a phone number 860-594-2020 for the voicemail, and 860-594-2078 for Francisco Fadul, and the project webpage as follows. I will go ahead and start this meeting. So some meeting overview of this meeting is housekeeping for the project team and meeting interaction. The formal presentation of design, displaying existing conditions, define the proposed and needs, the proposed design recommendations, and some live question and answer session. Some of the Title VI judicial rights: no person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. Voluntary post-meeting survey, as the links as follows. Also, there's a QR code that you can scan. Some civil rights information, link as follows. There's gonna be a recording of this presentation that will be posted on to YouTube after the event. Closed caption including non-English translation options are available on Zoom and YouTube. Title VI notice to the public as follows. How to view the captions and subtitles in Zoom. First, click Show Captions. Second, click the speaking language. And third, select the language you would like to list shown, as you see on the picture in the right. Some question and answer session by email, as the link is as the email. By phone, 806-594-2022 for 20 for the voicemail, 860-594-2878 for Francisco Fadul. Some Q&A on the project web page as follows. Note, the comment period is open through April 3rd. How to use the Zoom Q&A. First, select the Q&A tool at the bottom of the Zoom webinar window. Second, the Q&A window will be open as seen to the right. Third, please type the question in the text box and click enter. If you are in audio or principiant, dial 9 to raise the lower under hand. Some of the project team of Connecticut Department of Transportation is Derek Lazar, the Transportation Principal Engineer, Francisco Fadul, Transportation Supervising Engineer, Iso Blasi, Project Engineer, Zach Guarino, Right-of-Way Project Coordinator. Some of the project team on the consultants: Don Wurst, Silly Project Manager, Francisco Garcia, Silly Project Engineer, Illegal Juhas, Principal Tractor Lead, and Daniel Claff, Project Manager, Bridges. I'll go ahead and pass it to Daniel Claff.
Francisco, thank you very much for the introduction. Again, my name is Daniel Claff, and I'm a structural engineer with Mott MacDonald, the design consultant on the project. This project is located in Enders State Forest, which is northwest of Hartford, and it's east of the Barkhamsted Reservoir. It's also located about 5.5 miles to the west of the town of Granby on Route 219, which is Barkhamsted Road. The original project was built in the 1950s. And as you can see in the satellite view on this page, it's located between Enders Road and a parking area for the state forest. Next, please. Before talking about our proposed project, it's important to understand a little bit about the existing facility. And so the facility as it stands right now consists of two components. There's a roadway carrying Route 219, and there's a culvert underneath the roadway conveying an unnamed brook. As I mentioned, the project was originally built in 1959, but prior to this, a lane existed in this approximate location, and it followed the natural undulations of the terrain. So when they built the current project in 1959, they ultimately flattened the roadway by filling the undulations with an embankment, and this allowed for higher speed traffic. So currently the project area is a 50-mile-per-hour road, and it's 2 lanes, 1 in each direction. And it has a 35-foot curb-to-curb width. The average daily traffic is 6,700 vehicles per day, of which 6% or so is truck traffic. So this roadway is a fairly fast road in a scenic wooded environment, and it has a reasonable amount of traffic on it. Talking about the culvert, it was built at the same time as the roadway. And because, again, the roadway was built onto an embankment, the culvert is a fair bit lower in the embankment than the road. And that will become important as we talk about the proposed project. So the current culvert is corrugated metal pipe, and it's approximately 80 feet long with a 6-foot diameter. It has a concrete inlet and outlet, which we'll talk about in a moment. And it's important to note that the 100-year storm does not currently overtop the roadway. And what this tells us is that the hydraulic capacity of the existing culvert is sufficient for its needs. Next, please. I want to go into a little bit more detail about the existing conditions before we talk about the proposed project. So the last time the site was inspected was in 2023. And overall at the roadway level, we have a satisfactory condition. There is some cracking in the asphalt pavement, and I should say also the railing is in good condition. But with the curbs, what we see is even though the condition of the curbs is satisfactory, they are in a substandard condition. So the curbs currently are in front of the guide rail, and that's not traditionally how we design curbs for roadways in the present day. I would also add that in the inspection report, the scope of the curb was based on where the curb is right at the culvert. And as we move away from the culvert, we find that sections of the curb are missing or broken. So these are aspects that we would want to address in the project. Next, please. Talking about the culvert now. So the culvert was also inspected in 2023, and overall the culvert is in poor condition. As I mentioned before, the culvert is a corrugated metal pipe. And as you can see in the left picture, there is some deterioration present. Originally, the pipe had what we call an asphaltic lining, which protects the metal of the pipe from corroding. Over time, that lining has deteriorated. And so that leads to the poor condition. And of course, with the lining gone, we also have some corrosion of the pipe itself. Included in that, we have some holes in the pipe. We call these perforations. And so these would need to be addressed. Outside, or at the ends of the culvert, we have the concrete supports for the pipe. So we call these head walls or cradles, and overall, these are in fair condition. So in the middle photo on this page, you can see what we call the head wall, and it's got two concrete wing walls adjacent to it. Again, I've labeled here that the pipe is 6 feet in diameter, so you can get a sense of the scale of the pipe. What we see in the inlet head wall is that there is some cracking of the head wall, and it's warranting a repair, although it's not as serious as we've seen in cracks at other locations. As for the outlet, however, the outlet has this cradle that you can see in the photo on the right. And the cradle over time has become undermined, and that's led to a displacement of the cradle. So originally, this concrete cradle was flush with the face of the culvert, and because it's rotated out of place, it allows for water to flow behind the cradle, and that flow creates a condition where you have erosion of the embankment. So this situation definitely needs to be addressed as well. One other element with the outlet is you can see that we have a little waterfall here. This is what we call a perched outlet, and this disconnects the stream flow. So what this means is this especially prevents fish passage up the stream. So when we replace the culvert, we're going to look to address this aspect as well. Next, please. So a summary of the purpose and needs for the project. We wish to replace the culvert, and we plan to maintain a state of good repair for the components of the project. And over the course of this, the needs for doing this project are to minimize traffic interruptions, again, address the pipe cradle at the outlet, stabilizing the stream bed, and again, we want to prevent flow from going behind the walls. Next, please. So let's talk about the proposed replacement of the culvert. At this point, this is a preliminary design, so it's important to realize that various components of this project will likely change significantly between now and the start of construction. But this is currently where the state of our design stands. The project has three major components. First, we have the culvert and the culvert replacement. Second, we will have regrading of the stream bed. And then third, we have roadway improvements as well. So we'll talk about each of these three components in turn. First, the culvert is going to be replaced with a precast concrete box culvert and new concrete head walls and wing walls. And you can see in this cross-section of the project, we have our new precast concrete box culvert in orange. And you can see that this will be installed in segments, vertical segments. In the bottom portion of the slide, you can see a cross-section of the culvert itself. And you can see that it's a 12-foot by 9-foot box, and it's partially going to be filled with stream bed material. So the proposed culvert is significantly lower than the existing. And the reason for this is that it's going to allow for removal of that perched outlet condition and reconnection of the fish passage. In order to facilitate this change, though, it also means that we have to do some regrading in the stream bed. So at the outlet, we look to actually replace the scour area as its current condition. But at the inlet, we're going to have to regrade the slope of the stream coming into the culvert to make it a little bit lower than it is right now. One aspect of this part of the project is we're also going to implement some rock weirs in the stream bed upstream of the inlet. And what this will do is this will create some natural pools, and it'll also slow down the velocity of the water entering the culvert. This is really important because the higher the speed of the water, the greater the possibility for erosion of the channel. So we want to put these rock weirs into the channel to promote a lower flow of the stream. Next, please. So the third component of this project is the roadway. Since we are replacing the culvert, it gives us a great opportunity to improve the roadway features as well. And not only will we improve the condition of the features, but it'll also allow us to promote the safety of the facility as well. So this graphic shows a plan view of the site. Again, we have the culvert in orange in the middle of this graphic. And what we will do is we will ultimately replace the full depth of pavement in the area marked in yellow. So we have to excavate in order to get to the culvert. And when we fill the excavation back in, then we'll replace the roadway in this area. In addition, we have an existing catch basin that facilitates drainage of the roadway. We'll be replacing that catch basin with a new catch basin, as you can see in purple, and that catch basin with its buried piping is right next to the culvert, as you see here. The most significant change as far as the roadway relates back to that curb condition that I mentioned previously. So what we propose to do is we're going to actually replace the entire guide rail run along the roadway. In this image, the guide rail is shown as a pink line right along the edge of the road. And it starts a few hundred feet to the east of the culvert site. And it progresses along Barkhamsted Road, all the way off the left edge of this slide. But if you go to the next slide, please. Here we see a continuation of the road, and the guide rail progresses another about 500 feet to the west. So in total, the new guide rail run will be approximately 1,000 feet. And when we replace the guide rail, we'll replace the curb as well. And this will create a new up to standard condition for the roadway. Next, please. Next, please, if you don't mind. Thank you. One other aspect of this project is the implementation of a complete streets plan. So complete streets is a roadway design philosophy. And it promotes safe features for pedestrians and cyclists who are using roadway facilities. Because we have the State Forest parking lot along Barkhamsted Road, and we've seen that there are some pedestrians and cyclists who may wish to use the facility and especially use the adjacent Enders Road. There's an opportunity here to improve the condition for them. So what this will entail is fairly surface level improvements of the roadway. Along this entire corridor that you see on this slide, we will implement 2 11-foot traffic lanes. And on the side of the 2 11-foot lanes, we'll have 2 7-foot shoulders. So these widened shoulders will provide a little bit more access for pedestrians and cyclists and create a slightly safer condition than what's currently out there. Next, please. Let's talk about what the implications are for the traveling public. In order to complete the construction of this project, we have to approach it in stages. So for this first stage that you see here on the slide, construction will take place on the south side of the roadway, or underneath the eastbound lane of traffic. So that's the area that's cross-hatched on this slide. While construction is taking place in that area, all the traffic will be in the current westbound lane, and we'll implement what we call a temporary one-way alternating traffic situation. This alternating one-way traffic will be controlled by temporary traffic lights. And this is a fairly common approach for addressing a traffic flow situation during construction. We believe that this is the best way to handle traffic here on the site while construction is taking place, because it avoids implementing a really long detour. Next, please. In stage 2, what we have is a flip of the project. So in this situation, the construction work will take place on the north side of the site underneath the westbound lane, and all of the traffic will be shifted to the eastbound lane of the road. Now, because of the geometry of the roadway that we have, we actually also have to do a temporary roadway widening along the eastbound lane. And this will allow us to have sufficient lane width for traffic on the roadway. And once again, in this stage, we still will have the temporary traffic lights as well to control traffic flows. Next, please. Finally, we come to stage 3. And in stage 3, this is where a lot of the finalization work takes place. So in this stage, we reinstate the two-way flow of traffic on the roadway level. Once we get to this stage, we anticipate we'll do the majority of the stream regrading work. And that will take place both with the placement of the stream bed inside the culvert and also the regrading of the stream bed upstream of the culvert. Also, during this phase, we anticipate that most of the final roadway work will take place. And that consists of shoulder reconstruction, the installation of the long guide rail runs that I mentioned before, the installation of the curbs, final pavement, and also, of course, the striping that's required to go with the complete streets approach. Finally, the last thing that will take place during stage 3 is demobilization, and incorporated in that is the forest restoration. Since this is in a state forest, a certain area will have to be cut in order to facilitate the construction work. So in stage 3, we'll be reinstilling the forest to its current condition. So we'll work with the DOT and with the OEP in order to re-implement the forest as it was. Next, please. A little bit more on utility and right-of-way impacts. There really are only 2 utilities that are in the vicinity. So we have overhead power lines along the south side of the road. And during construction, we'll be moving those to the north side in order to allow for construction to take place. At the end of the project, these will be moved back to the south side of the road, and that'll be back to pretty much the existing condition. In addition, the roadway drainage situation, as I mentioned before, we'll be replacing a catch basin that was currently located in the roadway, and this will replace the as-built condition. From a right-of-way standpoint, all of the property that's affected by this project belongs to the state. So there will be a transfer of control of easements from the CT Deep to the DOT. So from that standpoint, no permanent easements are anticipated and no private property is affected by this project. Next, please. We also have the topic of environmental impacts. So ultimately, a significant portion of this project is aimed at improving the environmental impact of the stream by regrading and reconnecting the stream flow through the culvert. As I mentioned, though, we also have the forest impacts, and these are going to be restored in consultation with the Office of Environmental Planning. In addition, because there are wetlands adjacent to the site, there may be minimal impact to wetland land, but this will also be restored in consultation with the OEP. We anticipate 2 permits to be required. We have the Army Corps GP19 permit, and we have the CT Deep Inland Wetland General Permit. Next. So finally, just a brief note on project schedule and cost. And it's important to note here that, again, because we're in the preliminary phase of this project, it's impossible to say that this is the final condition. Indeed, these are subject to change as the design advances. So from a scheduling standpoint, we will be in design until the middle of next year. Contractor bids will be in late 2026. The bulk of the construction will take place during the summer of 2027, and the project will be closed out in early 2028, if not the very end of 2027. The DOT's obligated construction cost is just over $2 million, but currently we are anticipating a slightly higher construction cost due to some design changes that we've already made on the project. So currently we're anticipating a construction cost of about $3.8 million. And I will also note that funding for the project is 80% federal and 20% state. So with that, I will pass it back over to Francisco.
Thank you, Dan. As I said in the beginning, there's a question and answer session via email as follows: via phone to 860-594-2020 for the voicemail, 860-594-2078 to Francisco Fedul, and there is some Zoom Q&A, and also in the product webpage. There's the comment period is open through April 3rd, 2025. Some of the Title 6 Judicial rights. No person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. Voluntary post-meeting survey is linked as follows. There's a QR code that you can scan. Some civil rights information, link as follows. A recording of this presentation will be posted to YouTube after the event. Closed caption, including non-English translation options, are available on the Zoom and YouTube. Thank you. Everyone could go ahead and type your question if you guys have any.
Francisco, could you go to the slide that shows the way to connect and to comment?
Yep.
Yep, just keep it there for now, please.
Sure.
don't see comments posted yet. Just to remind everybody, there's a button called Q&A. If you just hover down below on your Zoom screen, and you can post questions there.
So everyone, for the question and answer session, you can go ahead and do it via email, via phone to 860-594-2020 for the voicemail, 860-594-2878 to Francisco Fadul, or via Zoom Q&A, or to the project webpage. As I just said, the comment period is open through April 3rd, 2025. As you see in the right, if you guys are on Zoom, you can go ahead and do the Q&A and type your question. So to anyone that has joined, please, there is a question and answer session. You can go ahead and do it via email, as by phone to 860-594-2020 in the voicemail, or to 860-594-2078 Francisco Fadul via Zoom Q&A, or via the project webpage. There is just a question that just came up. How will access to the trail be affected?
Yeah, so I would say that the access to the parking for the state forest will probably be limited during the course of construction because there will be a brief period where we have to do the paving. As far as other impacts, we of course will be paving down towards where Enders Road ties into Barkhamstead Road. But beyond that, the facilities of the state forest won't be affected.
Thank you. There is one more question. They said, what is OEP?
Yeah, OEP is the Office of Environmental Planning, and that is a state department.
Those were all the questions we have. So if anyone else have any questions, please do it via email or by phone or by the Zoom Q&A or the private webpage. As I just said, the comment period is open through April 3rd, 2025. If there are no more questions, thank you to everyone that attended this meeting.